about your beliefs regarding the emergency medical services system here in Barbados and patient care.
Well, I believe that the emergency ambulance service and emergency medical system, EMS part of it, is probably the integral part of Barbados. I believe that we do an excellent job. I also believe that we can do a lot more. But based on scope, for one reason or another, we've been stuck in a rut for a particular number of years.
What do you believe is the role of legislation and regulation for pre-hospital providers?
So the role from what I think, the role of legislation and regulation is one to make sure, first of all, in terms of dealing with a patient, that one, with whoever's dealing with them, whichever EMT or healthcare provider is dealing with them, that they get what they're supposed to get. If they go to whatever ambulance service or whoever, that if they're supposed to be treated or a certain procedure is supposed to be done, in accordance to what is agreed on. Having those things will also address cases where, for example, abandonment or things that didn't happen, and as a result, persons are held accountable for their actions. In terms of from litigation, it's also necessary to protect them from litigation where necessary, because we here in Barbados becoming quite a bit litigious. If I go for somebody and they think that I didn't do what they were supposed to do, or as a result of my actions, even though it might be in our protocol, the person had a bad outcome, to prevent me prevent whoever's dealing with them from being sued, from having their license taken away, or their registration taken away.
So how do you think that this legislation and regulation impacts the care or the service delivery and patient outcome? What do you believe?
So, one, I like examples. Say, for example, we 2016, we had a number of cases here with sudden collapse and death in the street. So let's say, for example, if it is legislated that EMS supposed to go to the particular scene and get there by a particular time, and as a result, when they get there, they're supposed to do A, B, C, and D, and they don't do it. As a result, one, they could be disciplined for it, and two, if it is a case where they did what they're supposed to do in accordance to legislation and policy and protocols, and still the relatives of somebody thinks that they didn't do what they're supposed to do, or their actions led to a poor outcome, the legislation or the rules or whatever is there will protect them.
So what are some things you think that influence how any nurses or any doctors or even providers feel about EMS services?
To one, culture, because fortunately, most of the persons who end up in here as nurses, most of them didn't choose to go to A&E. And when you are put, in some cases, into a department or into anything that you were put, it wasn't your choice, you tend to learn the behaviors that you've seen there. So, for example, one of the things that we have quite often, if it is a busy day and you have one nurse or whatever there, like, oh, where do you go for this person? You all have to bring this person. As a result, they would have seen their superiors behave like that. They would have seen persons who are on their same level, doctors, allied health that work in the department, behave like that. So that's one. And two, sometimes I don't think they're fully oriented when they come into the department as to the purpose of the EMS and the pre-hospital field. So as a result, they tend to adopt the learned behaviors because they don't have a full understanding about how hand and glove pre-hospital and the emergency departments go. So as a result, you get all these negativities along to with the high patient rates and lower staff morals and low staff in general, but mainly culture. Because if you came in and realized, or the person who was your senior said, well, you EMTs here again, are you bringing this again? You couldn't tell them come or whatever. And sometimes as a result, it impacts how they deal with patients, right? And unfortunately, that isn't a good thing.
So tell me about your feelings towards legislation and regulation of pre-hospital EMS providers across the Caribbean.
It is necessary because every time I travel, whether for work, whether for pleasure, or whatever, I take particular time to visit the EMS. What we do here in Barbados, not saying that we're the best, but what we do here in Barbados, things that we have as a standard, a care. In other jurisdictions, it is like, oh, that's just nothing, he's a normal, whatever. So if it is said that for example, every alcoholic you go for, who may be quote unquote drunk or not, you do blood sugar testing for them. That is for us here, there's a standard, because we know what that can lead to. But if you go to, for example, Timbuktu, they don't do it. Nah. The bottom line is we're all dealing with the same patients. We're all in pre-hospital care. We're going to that sick or ill person to provide care to preserve their life until they get to the hospital. So I believe if tomorrow I inherit a good set of money and I want to travel to each and every Caribbean island, the same care I would get here if I get into a motor vehicle accident, I should be able to go wherever and go. And that came out it was so important last year when we had all these natural disasters, Dominica, DVA, Tortola, all these different places. Because one, Caribbean is small compared to some of the first world islands. If one of my brothers in one of those islands, which we saw, which happened there by chance or by need, it ended up happening. But if, for example, there's a dire emergency there where their EMS personnel or short staff or something major there, we should be able to call to Barbados and Vincent St. Lucia, anywhere, and they could say, yes, we are ready to go, right? And that group shouldn't be there for just 6 weeks. We should keep them there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and say, okay, tap out, bring home another set, and vice versa. So yes, legislation in terms of the standard of care should be common in our Caribbean islands.
So would you characterize your feelings as being negative, indifferent, or positive as it relates to legislation and regulation?
Positive, very positive. It is needed. It's more than needed. It is overdue.
Can you tell me a specific scenario or a situation where these feelings surface?
A particular case, a call.
Or a situation where you feel like...
so many. So an example. So there was this incident where I happened to be supervisor, and we sent out a crew to a call. Here in Barbados, directions, I don't know if you have, but directions in terms of getting directions and certain things is delayed. So the crew responded to this call for an asthmatic who was having difficulty breathing. So first they had difficulty finding them, then we found them. When they found the house now with the person, they said, well, oh, this issue is in bar, she isn't ready, whatever. They called me back in 5 minutes later and said, oh, she's dead. I was like, how do you mean she's dead? You just spoke to me 5 minutes ago. So bottom line is, they didn't perform, but they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So as a result, it may be not being professional, but as a result of it, went and I really like, this woman can't be there. You speak to me this, and I went told her, you know, this was supposed to be done, whatever. They did what they were supposed to do, and as a result, the lady is alive today. So in terms of those things, I think we as healthcare providers need to have that accountability and responsibility to do what we're supposed to do. Unfortunately, adults don't always do it. So things like legislation say, if you don't do X and Y or whatever, you know what can happen.
So you think that positively influences the behavior?
Yes. And it's unfortunate that people sometimes don't do what they're supposed to do when they think that they can get in trouble, or only behave correctly. When they think, well, in the case where I could be sued or something could lose my job or whatever.
So now, how does legislation and regulation negatively influence you or your peers or others' behaviors? negative?
In terms of negativity, I don't really think so, but I can think as the whole. I can't think of any instance right now on that in terms of that. But I can think that one, if a legislation or whatever is acted upon and Parliament has approved it, and staff doesn't have a full understanding as to what it does, the purpose of it, and they allow the gossip and the hearsay, not the full understanding of what is going on or the reason for it, I can see how it could be negative in terms of them. But it depends on which legislation it is, right?
Yeah. So now we'll move on with some questions about medical direction. Medical direction refers to each Caribbean country having a qualified emergency medical director, an EMS medical director, who oversees the country's EMS system and provides guidance for all providers. It refers to the appointment sometimes of an EMS medical director for each Caribbean country. Medical direction often requires involvement in clinical care, EMS system design, scope of practice, credentialing, and population-based care. Occupational safety and health of providers, and also encouraging and initiating research. Tell me about your beliefs regarding the medical direction for pre-hospital providers in Barbados.
So I believe apart from each ambulance service having their own medical direction, that we should have one person who is the head of all these individual medical direction, who foresees education, who says what our scope is, who look at data, who gets data and analyzes, and based on that determine what we do, where we go, and how we proceed. All right. Also, in terms of manpower, do we need, based on data again, do we need more manpower? And as a result, medical direction is necessary. One, because that person is also the link between government, also in terms of based on everything that's happening on the field and that's happening in each of these ambulance services, advising government in terms of what to expect, where do we go, and what is necessary based on the information coming from the pre-hospital field.
Do you believe it's important to pre-hospital providers, service delivery, patient care, and patient outcome?
Definitely. Because one, if we don't have a medical director or medical direction, we'll be doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Not one analyzing, nobody first of all, right? So if for years we've been putting a Band-Aid on a minor laceration, but in terms of new research and what I'm saying about that Band-Aid isn't relevant anymore, we need somebody to always keep us abreast in terms of see what is best for what is going on in our EMS system.
So would you characterize your feelings as being negative, indifferent, or positive regarding medical direction for pre-hospital EMS providers?
Positive, and here in Barbados is needed more on a day-to-day basis, not only in the forms of protocols or standing orders, but in terms of online medical direction, because our types of calls are changing, our dynamics are changing, or things that we would have written in our protocols are changing. So we need that continually.
Can you provide a specific scenario when these feelings surfaced? Who was involved and what happened?
Yet again, several. So this was years ago before being senior. We received a call for a young lady who didn't know she was pregnant. I had never delivered a breech. Furthermore, when we say but she didn't know she was pregnant, so she was having no prenatal care. And we responded to a call for a young lady in her 20s whose water boiled, and she said she feels if she's having a baby. When we got there, and we looked at her vulva, we saw a foot sticking up, right? One foot sticking up. So my colleague and I, we've never done this. No EMT course back then prepared us for this. Her last period, she said, was about 2-3 months ago, but she had a regular period, so there was no period yet. And back then, we didn't know what to do. We picked up not our phone, so we didn't have phones then. We picked up the lady's phone, we called accident and emergency, and they had to tell us, because the real issue was we couldn't load and go, we couldn't put her in. We actually had to stay on the phone, and the doctor had to tell me how to get this first fetus out, right? And then after that, the second one came up, it was normal. So I think that was my changing point, or my game changer in terms of this is necessary. So when we got back, they said, well, we did an excellent job based on just phone, just hearing it on the phone and stuff. Like, we didn't have cell phones then. We were on the lady's phone at her residence and stuff. But that for me said, yeah, this is needed, right? So and since then, there's a lot of other situations, but there's even more needed now, especially we have better technology, and it is paramount. Furthermore, there are cases, even though you would know what to do, there are times it's like you're not sure what to do. You need that reassuring voice at times to tell you, confirm.
So describe your thoughts about the things that of doctors, nurses, or even ambulance workers in Barbados as it relates to medical direction again.
It's again culture. Barbados is a very, very big on culture. My grandmother did it this way. My great grandmother did it this way, or whatever. So, in all those categories, first of all, if you don't have it coming from the top, the CEO or somebody saying that this must be done, there's going to be resistance. And again, it hasn't been done so. It has been done so for a number of years. Why change it now? There's no problem. There was no complaint. Why change it? Right? So, one or two, they think if they do it or if they don't do it, you may lose your job. Right? So, one or two of those things. But then again, but the biggest thing again is culture.
So along those same lines, generally speaking, how does medical direction positively influence the behaviors of your peers or yourself in a pre-hospital environment?
So, in terms of positively influencing, so especially here in EMS, they like to see a medical director who's there, who listens to them, who takes suggestions, and furthermore, when it is a mass casualty or something, and that medical director is there to offer reassurance or assurance, they tend to say, well, yeah, you understand things from my side of the coin. And because you understand things from my side of the coin, they tend to more listen to you. Versus many, many years ago, we had medical directors who gave directions sometimes only in the form of a letter. There were no protocols, there were no standing orders, there were anything. But now our current medical director, he understands things from all sides of the coin. So if he says, this is what's to happen and whatever, it is seen as, yes, we can do it.
So on the flip side, how does medical direction negatively influence behaviors of your peers and in A&E or in the pre-hospital environment?
Say negative stuff. Maybe probably try some words. So, because medical direction oversees and ensures you do what has to be done or tells you what needs to be done or whatever. Because a lot of us came out of a culture, especially in pre-hospital, once you go down the road, you're on your own. So, having a medical director and saying, well, do this or only do this if you call me, to them they say it's negative. To them they see it as negative. So from that point, yeah.
Are you able to tell me about a particular time? Who was involved? What happened? Not necessarily names.
Yeah, no, not names. I was trying to think. There's so many to go through. Okay, so there was an accident where it wasn't a mass casualty. It was what we call a multi-casualty. So here, anything less than 12 is a multi. So we had medical direction, not necessarily medical direction, it wasn't medical direction, but they had medical direction from another doctor who was not really no relationships among EMS, and that doctor was not the best, and is not the best even if you think up to this day. And the individual, because they came into the play late, came and said, well, for example, well, not for example, the guys had agreed along with fire to extricate the person via the window. There was no need to pop the door, there was no need to whatever. And this person just came and said, I am the medical director of this day. I wanted to do it so and do it so, no, whatever. It was done, but the way it was done, there was no collaboration, there was no cohesion. That person didn't see themselves as a team, they see themselves as a slave master and persons in EMS. And then again, anybody anywhere in the world don't work well with that. And as a result, it delayed. I don't think the patient died, but the patient injury worsened because of that dictatorial attitude that came over there versus team player.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, we understand that you're a medical director. You came into the picture last. Talk to us, ask us, so why are we doing this and whatever, and we would have evaluated, well, the personnel there would have evaluated, when you say, well, this means EMS, but evaluated, well, yeah, we think this is happening. We have that relationship with fire, and that's why they chose that. But the person just came on, no, this is protocol, whatever. Everything went here.
So in closing, how long have you been in the profession again?
24 years.
24 years. And I'm sure you like what you do.
I love it. I want to do more, actually.
Well, we've covered everything I planned to cover. Do you want to add anything else that I might not have asked you?
So, in terms of, I wish you would add beliefs, because I found here.
Beliefs, say that again?
Wish you would add it in terms of, you did beliefs at first.
Yeah, beliefs are
Right.
incorporated
No,
in
no,
both of them.
not that. I meant in terms of your personal beliefs, not necessarily in terms of how I feel it should happen, but in terms of your social beliefs impacting how you respond despite having protocol.
Oh, in terms of mine or yours?
No, in terms of in general. Because I've seen over the years this one instance, they're not going on religion, but religion is a part of the world now, where had a colleague who was from a certain religion, and the person before going to hospital wanted to pray, and this particular individual actually stopped the person from actually praying. Yeah, stop the person from actually praying, and as a result, we had to talk to the person and say, well, it's a patient's right. So I was expecting beliefs from that point of view, because we had one or two cases where, for example, the patient would have self-harm or tried to get rid of a pregnancy or something, and as a result, that person's attitude and the way how things were impacted. I think I was expecting it from that family beliefs, but that's fine. I understand.
Yeah, the purpose of this research is to examine the attributes that have been recommended.
Yes.
From 1996 in terms of attributes regarding the system.
Mm-hmm.
And the focus here was to examine from a qualitative perspective medical direction, yes. 2 of the 14, medical direction and legislation, and how your beliefs or affect or your behaviors either are influenced through those 2 particular domains. We certainly can explore a whole lot of things about beliefs. Beliefs, I mean, we have beliefs about a lot of things.
Yes.
So now the purpose of this particular semi-structured interview was to examine 2 of the 14 attributes. So I want to say thank you so much for participating.
No problem. You're welcome.